What are you going to do? Tell me. Look at the time now. On the weekdays, there's no one. And during the holidays, there's no one either. So many shops have closed, right? Do you think you're doing a good job? Management isn't doing its part, and neither is the mall. All you do is argue with us shop owners and demand things from us. If business were good, would so many stores have shut down? The woman in the video is the owner of a barbecue shop in Wuxi Fangyuanhui Mall. Her business has been losing money, and the mall management just keeps collecting rent without offering any help. To make matters worse, the mall started charging customers for parking, driving away even more people. With no foot traffic and high rent, she's been facing daily losses and finally couldn't take it anymore. The video spread quickly online, sparking heated discussions among viewers who felt a strong sense of empathy. However, shortly after it was posted on September 24th, it was taken down by the platform. I'm so tired, really tired. Why? What did I do wrong? This scene happened in Yiwu, a globally famous small commodities hub. The woman owns a bubble tea shop, and after struggling with endless financial pressure and barely making ends meet, she finally broke down. She kept asking, "What did I do wrong?" The truth is, she did nothing wrong. It's simply that she lives in China at a time when the economy is so tough. Unless you're connected to the elite, it's hard for ordinary people to succeed, no matter how hard they work. A person's breaking point comes in an instant. When the pressure reaches its limit, even the smallest trigger can lead to complete meltdown. I feel like I just can't hold on anymore. This girl graduated from a top 985 university and was once an AI project manager at a company. Unfortunately, she was laid off and has been unable to find a new job. She's on the verge of breaking down. In large cities like Beijing and Shenzhen, you can find unemployed people sleeping on the streets, in parks, or at train stations. Many of them came to the city from elsewhere looking for work. But with no job and no money for a hotel, they have no choice but to sleep outside. Some of them are fresh graduates, and people are saying, who knew a university graduate's first job would be as a homeless person? Some of these students come from rural areas, spending all their family savings or even going into debt to finish university, only to be unable to find work after graduation. This has pushed many of them to the brink of collapse. On September 18th in Ulaanbaatar, Inner Mongolia, a small business owner running a postpartum meal service put up an A4-sized job posting at her store's on her store's window. However, she was notified by authorities that she was being fined for illegally posting advertisements. She was told that if she didn't accept the penalty, her phone number would be blocked. She broke down on the spot. I just want to understand what's going on here. What's the point of all this? I just put up an A4-sized job posting on my store window. That's it. It's such a big window, and I put up such a small piece of paper. I'm exhausted and I couldn't find anyone to hire, so I thought I'd put up a paper for people in the area looking for jobs. Then I got a call from some department telling me that I violated some rule and that I need to take it down, take a picture of it being removed, and go to their office with my ID to face the penalty. Why should I be punished? Who did I hurt? I just put up a piece of paper on my own window. I don't understand the point of this work. I really don't get it. Then they sent me 3 texts saying that if I don't go, they'll block my number. How is this fair? I'm baffled. If you have the energy to do this, why not help people who really need it? What's the point of this work? If you had told me in advance that I couldn't put up a paper, I wouldn't have done it. But I didn't get any notice. I didn't hear anything saying that it wasn't allowed. Fine, go ahead and fine me, whatever. I just want everyone to weigh in. What is this all about? After this woman uploaded the video online, it quickly caught the attention of many netizens. On September 19th, the video made it to the local trending searches on Weibo. People left comments like, "The urban management must be so full they have nothing better to do." What kind of rule is this? Can't I put up something on my own window? If you have power, you can do anything you want, huh? Maybe they're just desperate for money. As the issue escalated and faced strong criticism from netizens, the Urban Management Comprehensive Law Enforcement Bureau of Ulaanbaatar City issued a statement. They said the misunderstanding was caused by poor communication and that by afternoon they had explained the relevant regulations to the woman and decided not to impose a fine. Their excuse of poor communication seemed like an attempt to close the matter, but it didn't calm the public. Some netizens questioned, "Oh, what a misunderstanding." What kind of ridiculous rule is this? Do they think they can do whatever they want just because it's a rule? This is how trust in authority slowly fades. Others pointed out that this wasn't just about a piece of paper, but a reflection of the challenging business environment. With the economy struggling, businesses are already having a hard time surviving. The government and its agencies should be a strong support for these businesses, helping them stay afloat. Instead, they've become an obstacle. It's clear that many understand the real issue. Local governments in China can no longer rely on selling land for revenue, so they turn to fines and confiscating people's assets to make up the shortfall. But this approach is short-sighted. The more money they squeeze, the harder life becomes for business and ordinary citizens. In the end, everyone collapses together. This year, waves of business closures and layoffs have been relentless. Videos of shops shutting down all across the country flood the internet. In just 6 months, within 20 meters of my shop, 5 stores have closed down. First, the fruit store behind me. It had only been open for a little over a month, lost 40 to 50,000 yuan, and closed. Then the neighbor spa, Guarong TV, which had just been renovated but hadn't opened yet. It used to be a hair salon, which had been there for 30 years, and now it's gone too. Next to that was a lottery shop, which had been there for about 6 months. Before that, it was a Huainan beef soup restaurant that had been open for 20 years. It also closed. Up the street from there, there's a place called Yu Xiaolou, which was open for 3 to 4 months and lost over 4 million yuan. Then it left, and the sushi and noodle shop that had been open for 5 years also closed down.
Look at Wanda Golden Street and all the closures. 1, 2, 3. The Huawei store is the 4th, 14, 15, 23, 24. We don't even bother checking the rest. There are 24 stores on the street up for rent or transfer.
Wanda Golden Street is a commercial real estate project under the Wanda Group, with developments in many cities across China. It used to be the landmark shopping district in every city, with shops that were highly sought after and rents that were sky high. Who could have imagined that it would decline to this extent? It's not just physical stores. In China, businesses across all industries are struggling to survive. Factories are shutting down, bosses are fleeing, and countless workers who've lost their jobs are owed wages. The equipment belongs to all of us workers. We agreed to sell it to pay wages. No one, no entity has the right to interfere. On September 24th, a large group of workers gathered at the Jinling Packaging Technology Company Limited in Dongguan, Guangdong, to demand their wages. After the boss fled without paying them, the workers decided to sell the factory's equipment to pay themselves and started a collective protest, blocking the factory entrance to prevent the equipment from being moved. Public records show that Dongguan Jinling Packaging Technology was founded in 2021. Its parent company, Shenzhen Jinling Packaging Company Limited, was established in 2017.
Running a factory just leads to becoming a deadbeat. Look at this boss. So many air conditioners and environmental equipment, plus gas tanks. And he didn't even have time to dismantle them before fleeing. What's the point of even running a factory anymore?
On August 31st, a factory owner in Guangzhou fled overnight. The workers came to work only to find that all the machinery had been taken away, leaving a mess behind. They had been owed wages for months, which now seem hopeless to recover. Reporting it to the police did nothing. There have been too many similar cases lately. China's real economy is in a deep recession. The real estate market, which supported economic growth for many years, is now on the verge of collapse and has become the biggest drag on economic recovery. In recent years, the Chinese real estate market has continued to decline. Property price drops have swept across the country, leading to steep price cuts in more and more small and medium-sized cities. Recent reports indicate that prices have fallen so sharply in at least 95 cities that properties can now be bought for just a few thousand yuan. The sharp decline in property prices has faced immense pressure on homeowners, and high mortgages have only made things worse, squeezing nearly all their spending power. This lack of consumption is one of the biggest issues facing China's economy right now. Moreover, income reductions caused by unemployment and pay cuts have left many unable to keep up with their mortgage payments, turning them into defaulters with ruined credit. As this netizen mentioned,
the fastest way to make a middle-class person fall back into poverty is to convince them to buy an expensive house, especially with a loan. In China now, the number of people with bad credit has exceeded 8 million, and it's still rising. We're seeing falling housing prices, declining stock values, decreasing wages, and even a drop in the birth rate, unemployment continues to grow. From what I've observed, most people going into debt fall into two categories: entrepreneurs and those who bought houses at high prices. They were looking forward to a bright future, only to see housing prices suddenly crash. At the same time, they got laid off by their companies, leaving them in a desperate situation. Then, they couldn't keep up with their mortgage payments, got sued by the bank, and ended up labeled as deadbeats.
In a recent interview with Voice of America, Professor Xu Chenggang from the Stanford Center on China's Economic and Institutions discussed how China is currently facing an economic crisis, with the collapse of the real estate market being a clear symptom. Over the past few years, major Chinese real estate companies have been going bankrupt, signaling the beginning of this economic crisis. The Chinese government has been trying to delay the crisis through a soft budget constraint strategy, meaning they rely on government subsidies and bailouts. However, as shown by the experiences of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, this approach only temporarily hides the problem without addressing the root causes. The debt issues facing local governments and the inefficiency of state-owned enterprises have gradually weakened China's economic foundation. The collapse of the real estate market has had the greatest impact on the financial outcome of all levels of government. So, how bad has the CCP's financial situation become? Recently, a finance blogger known as Lao Man discussed this on YouTube, highlighting the trend in fiscal revenue so far this year. From January to February, the year-on-year decline in total fiscal revenue was 1.7%. This number worsened month by month, and by May, the year-on-year decline had reached 7%, marking the largest single-month drop in China's fiscal revenue since records began. By August, the situation became even bleaker. Total fiscal revenue for China for August was 1.56 trillion yuan, down from 1.78 trillion yuan in August of last year, representing a year-on-year decline of 12.3%. This scale of decline is unprecedented in the history of Communist China. From the current trend, fiscal revenue is expected to continue to decline sharply, potentially reaching a 15% drop by December. This will be one of the greatest challenges the Chinese government has ever faced, as they've never anticipated such a dramatic fall in fiscal income. The national budget for 2024 sets a target of a 3.3% increase in general public budget revenue, which includes both tax and non-tax income. The revenue from government funds, primarily from land sales, is expected to grow by just 0.1%. The government has planned fiscal spending for the whole year based on these projections, with a 4% increase in general public budget expenditures and a staggering 18.6% increase in government fund expenditures. But now, with such a sharp decline in revenue, the Chinese government finds itself caught off guard. Lao Man believes that once the Chinese government faces the steep decline in fiscal revenue, their first response will be to completely abandon what little social welfare responsibilities they had left. This has already begun with the sudden introduction of the delayed retirement policy. And it doesn't stop there. While raising the retirement age by 3 years, the government also increased the mandatory pension contribution period from 15 to 20 years. This means that regular people will have to pay into the pension system for an additional 8 years, a major blow to middle-aged workers facing unemployment. It's also important to note that in China, it's common for workers over 35 to be laid off due to their age. Those who can hold on to their jobs until they're 45 are considered lucky. Many middle-aged workers, after being laid off, are forced to start over by working as cleaners, security guards, delivery drivers, or rideshare drivers, dubbed the 4 new essentials of the era. They earn meager wages, hoping to make it to 60 when they can finally collect their pensions. But now, with the CCP's delayed retirement policy, even that final hope has been crushed. One can only imagine the despair these people must be feeling. The biggest beneficiaries of the delayed retirement policy are government employees. On one hand, they can retire later while continuing to enjoy generous benefits. On the other hand, their pensions are extraordinarily high. Data shows that civil servants' pensions average 7,000 yuan per month, while in the more developed eastern regions, government workers often receive more than 10,000 yuan per month upon retirement. In stark contrast, ordinary citizens, particularly farmers, receive less than 200 yuan per month. The disparity is so vast that it's hard for people to accept. This gap is planting seeds of resentment among the public, which poses a threat to the CCP's regime. As we discussed earlier, one of the most pressing issues in China's looming economic crisis is the lack of spending power among ordinary citizens. Lao Man pointed out that in the West, governments typically respond to economic crises by providing social welfare to boost consumer spending. However, the Chinese government has taken the exact opposite approach. As soon as fiscal revenues started to plummet, the government abandoned the social welfare system entirely, offloading the financial burden onto citizens and leaving them to fend for themselves. The government shows no intention of stimulating consumption by providing any financial relief to the population. This approach, which goes against common sense, can only lead to one result. China's economic crisis will be more intense and devastating than any crisis previously known in human history. In addition, on September 24th, the CCP announced 2 new policies aimed at rescuing the economy. The first was to lower reserve requirement ratios and interest rates, signaling that the central bank is about to flood the economy with cash. The second policy was to reduce interest rates on existing mortgages and lower the down payment requirement for new home purchases from 25% to 15%. In other words, instead of boosting consumer spending, the Chinese government is trying to drain people's wallets further, encouraging to take on more debt and become slaves to the housing market. Lao Man believes that these reckless actions, which ignore basic economic principles, are destined to result in catastrophic consequences. The scale of this disaster will likely redefine global understanding of economic crises. This disaster, which has already begun, might be the final toll of the bell for the CCP.